gives me great pleasure today to welcome Victoria McDermott of Phantom Lights to GallantFew's The New American Veteran. This is a show that celebrates those veterans that have succeeded in civilian life. It highlights the companies that support those veterans and that help us in our mission. And it also identifies resources that can help veterans as they go through their transition, however long that transition has been going on. So Victoria, welcome to The New American Veteran.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, we appreciate the support that you and your company have provided to GallantFew and to Run Ranger Run. The whiteboard video last year that you produced for us was just absolutely first rate. And I know it brought in a lot more supporters for Run Ranger Run, and it helped us get our message out. So thank you, first of all, for that.
You're welcome. It was cool to be part of an innovative project like that.
So tell me about your company. What do you do? I guess I looked online and I can't just go order a flashlight from you guys.
Sorry, you can't. We make all kinds of military and law enforcement lighting. We have a range of products. We actually are also getting into off-road lighting and municipality lighting, but our specific core competency is in military lighting. And so we make a line of covert lights, flashlights, vehicle lights, tent lights that allow soldiers to maneuver on a battlefield without being seen by an enemy. Lots of companies make lots of great lights. We happen to be the only company that makes covert lighting to manage friendly night vision goggles or keep you safe from enemy night vision goggles. And we do it all here in Florida.
So when you say covert lighting, what does covert lighting mean?
So covert lighting, as we define it, is a light that allows you to do your job without making you vulnerable to an enemy sniper. I mean, that's a quick one-line explanation of it. So, for example, if you have a combat medic that has a wounded soldier out in the field, he or she's going to rush out and take care of them. However, in the caretaking, using any light at night, using the wrong light at night, can not only get the soldier that they're trying to care for hurt or further, but they can also get killed. So covert lighting allows somebody to do their job and stay safe at the same time.
So if, let's say I was a company commander and I had my lieutenants around me and we were looking at a map, do I still have to lay down on the ground and put a poncho over the top of myself, or am I able to have a discussion in the nice cool air where I don't have to breathe in everybody else's foul breath?
Well, that would depend on which kind of flashlight you have. No, I'm just kidding. As long as you have, with a Phantom light, it's got three facets to it that make it covert. One, it's got a hood on it. Everybody else makes a flashlight without a hood. Back in the day, lots of people used to take toilet paper rolls and tape them to the ends of their flashlight. So, and what that did was that stopped light from coming out of the side. So we do that, but in a much nicer design package there, where it's actually embedded into the bezel of the light. Second, the bulbs that we use are restricted light output. They don't put out all kinds of light. They just put off very specific, visible white light. Your standard incandescent or fluorescent bulbs, they put off 5% visible light, 95% infrared. So that's, of course, what goggles are picking up. So it's a dimming system as well. We have three parts, and the third is the dimming system. When you turn the light on, it doesn't just come on bright. It comes on very dim. It goes from 0, and it's incrementally all the way up to its full intensity. There are other companies that have sort of tried to copy that, but they don't have our electronic dimming system. So what they'll do is like a jump from low, medium, high, or high, medium, low. And all that does is give a sniper a great target because it catches their eye.
So you guys have been in business for generations. So
Right.
If I remember right on the website, third generation, is that right?
Right. So my grandfather, Julian McDermott, invented floating water lights for the Navy in 1943 during World War II. Our ships were trying to get around the mine-laden waters in Japan, and my grandfather had the idea that if ship number 1 threw lights off either side as they were approaching the island, ship number 2 would at least have a clear lane and a chance to breach that beach. So the funny kind of tongue-in-cheek funny side to that story was my grandfather came up with this idea, brought it to the Navy. the Navy bought off on it, thought would be a great lifesaver overseas, and then said, hey, you're just working out of your basement. We're going to actually give the work to somebody else and let my grandfather make like some small component of the light. But that's kind of what started our lighting. So, and my grandparents.
Thanks for the idea. We really appreciate your idea. Now somebody else can make money.
That's right. My grandparents then had 8 kids. 6 of them were engineers. One is my dad, who is a mechanical engineer. My grandfather was an electronics engineer. My brother is an electronics engineer. So I am a lawyer that doesn't practice because I get to do this cool stuff. So I'm kind of the black sheep of the family, but I got the coolest job because I get to deal with soldiers. So can't beat that.
What would you say, if you could pick out over the last few years, one thing that you can talk about where your products maybe made a huge difference? You've got a success story or a really cool story that you might be able to share?
Well, it's a little difficult to answer that only because, from like an in here kind of heart perspective, it's not like we sell lights for camping, so when people come to me, and it happens all the time, when people come to me and say at a trade show, or they visit the office and they tell you, your light saved my life, it's really humbling, and really it brings me to tears, honestly, because again, it's not like a camping light. So I mean, I did one story that specifically sticks out. I was at a large trade show in Washington, D.C., and as normally happens in those big DC shows, there was like an entourage that went by, and it's often a 4-star general or a congressman or something, and so this entourage swoops by, and at the end of the entourage was this master sergeant, and he looks at me and goes, hey, Phantom lights. He goes, I use your lights. And I said, oh, great. And he's looking at the booth above my head, and he's like, yeah, I use them in Afghanistan. And I said, okay. And he goes, yeah, it was bad. It was bad. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so he's like, well, and he turns around, he pulls his blouse up, and he's like, I have rods in my back. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, yeah, it was bad over there. And so I kind of like sensed that he was trying to tell me a story. And it's always so weird because I don't know, should I ask, like, is it appropriate to ask? He was sort of offering me a story. So I said, well, I hope, you came, I hope everything was okay. And he goes, well, do you want to hear the story? So I was like, of course. So I actually sat on the edge of my desk at the trade show, like kind of walked around the front and perched on the table, which is very unusual, especially at a $11,000 show. But I was just so listening to his story. He was involved in the Roberts Ridge incident in Afghanistan, and apparently he was on one of the teams that went in to try to rescue the guys. And when he and several others fell down the rappel ropes, he actually landed on an outcrop of rock. And so now he's telling me the story. He's like, well, so he goes, next thing I know, I landed and I blacked out, and the next thing I know, I wake up and he goes, and it's really dark. He goes, and you don't know dark until you've been in Afghanistan dark. And he goes, and it was getting very cold. And, he goes, as I was kind of sitting there thinking about my options, he says, you would look, you being me, you civilians, you would look at a footage of Afghanistan, think nobody lives up in those mountains. He goes, but let me tell you, they all live in those mountains. And that's where they do their best and worst work. He said, I would have rather have died on that rock than get caught by one of them. He said, but I still wanted to live, obviously. So he said, I could hear a Stratocaster. I could hear one of our planes up there. He goes, and I reached up, and on my LBE, that's back in the day, the LBE, he goes, I realized my phantom light had made the fall with me. He said, and I knew that I could shine that light up in the direction where I heard the aircraft, and I would not be putting light off to the side. So any of those guys who were up in the mountains, they wouldn't see me. It's just going up to the aircraft. So he said, I did that. Now, he said what happened that he found out later was there was an Air Force, female Air Force pilot that saw the light. And then when you look at a phantom light under NVGs, because it's white, I mean, you see something if it's head on, but it doesn't look like a normal white light. So apparently they blew her off the first time, and she was insistent that somebody was down there and they need to send help. So apparently they did, but and you would know more about this than I do, but apparently they didn't even include the extraction equipment. I guess somebody went out there to placate her. They didn't have like the harnesses, whatever. All they had was like a rope, something. He was like, it was real. He went this thing about him getting up on the aircraft. Anyway, so they did get him out. And he said, they took me back to the base. And he said, you know, so I'm out walking around. I'm sitting in a briefing. And he said, the guy next to me looks and goes, oh, you spilled coffee in your lap. And he's like, no, my coffee is here. And he looks down, and he had lost bladder control. She's like, you know, he's like, great. So he's like, all right, I'll go to the medics, you know. So he goes to one medical tent, and he's like, I don't want to wait in there, you know, takes too long. I'm too busy for this, right? So he goes to another medical tent. So they take him and they bring him back for an x-ray. So he's on the x-ray table, and he's like, now I got to go to the bathroom. He goes, I don't have time for this stuff. So he jumps off the table. He goes, 3 male nurses came in and grabbed him and told him, don't move, because apparently the damage in his back was so bad that he could have paralyzed himself. So he said the docs come up, and he's like, they gave me a little something. He said, just going to take the edge off. He goes, next thing I know, I open my eyes, I'm in Germany. You know, now he's like he's telling me a story. He's like a little annoyed, you know. It's like, I didn't need that. He's just, so they looked at me again. He goes, and this other doctor comes up to me and goes, all right, this will just take the pain away for now. He goes, whatever he put in me, he goes, burns like SHIT. And he goes, and that was it. It went black. He goes, and the next thing is I opened my eyes and I saw my wife and my mother-in-law. He goes, I started screaming for them to get out because I thought the Taliban had them. So, and then the doctor came over and said, son, calm down. You're at Walter Reed. So like all of that, you know, I'm sitting there extremely unprofessional, tears streaming down my face, you know. So it's like, you know, you think about that and you just say, this isn't a light for camping. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, what a great story. That's absolutely amazing. And yeah, when you think about future generations that are going to be here now, and he's going to be here for them because he had that light with him.
Right.
That's absolutely amazing. So your lights are for military, law enforcement, and like first responders. Is that, tell me a little bit about your distribution. Who can buy your lights?
Well, so we have the covert military flashlights, which would specifically be for our active duty, National Guard, Reserve, and law enforcement, Border Patrol, that kind of thing. And then the non-covert lights, again, we're kind of open law enforcement, but we have someone considered a backwards way of working, because the lights really work the way I just explained to you. We feel it's really critical not to sell this technology out of the country. So we don't sell them open market. And I've turned down some really lucrative offers from other countries that they just, I don't know what side of the fence they're on at any given point in time. Countries that, you know, may be doing some good work out in the big wide world. They're hiring our retired, you know, Task Force 160 guys or whatever, and they're setting up a special operations aviation regiment. And those guys, when they were on active duty here, you know, they used the phantom lights, and now they're trying to take them to their new job. And we just say no. I mean, my dad and I kind of laugh a little bit at first. We're like, we could take this $150 flashlight and make it a $750 flashlight and flash with cash. No, you know, we're like, for 10 minutes we kind of laugh over it, but you know, it's not funny. Like, I don't know. I do about 25 trade shows a year, and I look around at all this cool equipment that Americans are making. You know, American innovation is driving all these great new products, and American manufacturing, like we are, building these great products. And it's like, why aren't we giving the advantage to the home team? You know, and even something like a Berry Amendment or something, you know, it's still, if it's not clothing, it doesn't, you know, and the Buy American Act, even that in itself, even that's not guaranteeing that it's really an American product. It's really, you know, and unfortunately, our politics is such, it's not easy to be American manufacturer anymore. But we just feel that it's that critical. I mean, my non-Phantom, non-covert stuff, we can sell, like we even have that on Amazon. But for the covert flashlights, we're very protective over them. And it's not only a matter of protecting it for Phantom's benefit, so we don't have trademark or not trademark. We don't have patent infringement is one thing. That's not really relevant. When the light was designed back in the early 90s, we worked with the SEAL teams in Virginia Beach because we had a building there at the time. And they told us that as they were helping us kind of do form, fit, and function, they kept saying, oh, you better not sell these to the bad guys. You better not sell these to the bad guys. And it kind of stuck. And so when we finished the flashlight, we just decided it's not going to the bad guys. So it's a little bit of a backwards way of doing things. A lot of other vendors are just like, what the heck? Why wouldn't you sell to, pick a country? I just don't want to we don't want to do business that way. So,
well, thank you for doing that. That in a reverse way is going to keep our soldiers alive, because that technology is not in the hands of the enemy, and it will allow us to capture them. So right. They can't get away like you described earlier. So thank you for doing that. Let's switch gears just a little bit. Your company's participation with GallantFew and Run Ranger Run. Can you tell me a little bit about what that means to you?
Well, we, again, in the whole scheme of how we do what we do, again, not doing a typical, business model of kind of selling as much as you can everywhere you can. That's part of, taking care of other people. Jesus was very clear, right? Do unto others. And so, we kind of have this philosophy that our money, the money that we do make, even though it literally is my money because it's my family business, we treat it though like you would treat your own personal money. If I have money that I want to donate, I want that money to really go to someplace that somebody is really going to be helped, and Run Ranger Run, what a cool vehicle, a cool mechanism for gaining awareness of the issues. And GallantFew, pulling together to give these veterans, a reminder that they're not alone, potentially people to reach out to, and it's, for me, I look at it as an investment, not a monetary investment, but, even we do our social media promotions for it. I don't anticipate that someone's going to go, oh, well, Phantom sponsored Run Ranger Run, so let me go out and buy some Phantom Warrior flashlights. But what I do hope is that if any of those soldiers somewhere down the line are struggling, maybe they'll remember, that they saw the quirky little drawing of us or whatever, and they'll reach out for help, even if it's to me. I get personal relationships with a lot of our military, over the years. I mean, like I said, I do about 25 trade shows a year as I visit bases. I've been accused of trying to do my own USO tour, because I like to hang out, and we kind of talk to people about what they're going through. I mean, sometimes you can just be the right person at the right time. I remember I was at one Kentucky Guard show, and this was kind of when we were sending a lot of Guard units into Bosnia and Kosovo, when they were kind of ramping up, where they hadn't really used the Guard much in years. And I was at this Kentucky Guard show, and I said to this chaplain, I'm like, so, how are your troops doing? He goes, Victoria, they're tired. We don't have the mechanisms that the active duty have. I mean, again, this was a while ago. We don't have those mechanisms, and, they're tired. I said, well, chaplain, how are you doing? And he almost burst into tears, because I guess people don't ask his chaplain how he's doing, So maybe if, God forbid, he's struggling somewhere, he will remember that, we asked him, or we did this, or whatever. So, that's
still true. The National Guard and Reservists, when I first started GallantFew, I had the mistaken assumption that National Guard and Reserve units had an easier time of transition because they all come back together and they live locally and they get to see each other on a weekend. And I was educated in a very rapid fashion that is not the case. And that when somebody comes back from a deployment, they may go home, and home may be 3 or 4 states away. Mm-hmm. And they won't see somebody else from their unit until maybe a month later, or if they've been given a waiver for that drill, maybe even 60 days later. And during that time, a lot of things can happen. So it is absolutely critical that the National Guardsmen and women and the reservists understand that we're here and that we're able to connect with them. I'm starting to do some things in the state of Texas that hopefully will be adopted into Texas National Guard in terms of emotional wellness and transition help, because they definitely, they have a need that on the surface is not evident, but it's very, very important. I want to go back to what you said a minute ago too about your involvement with Run Ranger Run. One of the key things that tells the character of someone is when they do something for someone, knowing that the other person cannot do something for them in return. And the other one that you hear people say is, how do you speak about somebody when they're not around? But in your case, you're helping us help veterans, knowing that those veterans are not going to be able to come back directly and give you more business. And there are organizations that I've spoken with that they're, quite frankly, they want to know what's in it for them when they talk to us. And to hear you say that, I mean, that's absolutely a supreme motive, and it's one that it touches me because you understand it and you're in it. That absolutely tells me that you're in it for the right reasons or to do the right thing. And from that, you have, as a veteran and as a director of GallantFew, you have my undying gratitude for that.
Well, you're welcome.
Victoria, I want to say again, thank you so much for being on the New American Veteran. It's an honor and a privilege to talk to you. Your support is so special, and it means so much to us. Again, I want to say thank you very much.
Well, on behalf of my dad and my brother and my employees, we appreciate you as well.
This is Corey. He is a veteran. He proudly served the United States as an Army Ranger. When he was leaving the military life for civilian life, he decided to run from Fort Benning, Georgia to Indianapolis, Indiana, approximately 565 miles in 28 days. Why? To illustrate the difficult journey that a soldier has transitioning from military service to a civilian life. It is not as simple as taking off a uniform and starting a 9-to-5. So Corey set out to make a difference, and his friends and family chanted "Run, Ranger, Run" in support. And from this, Run, Ranger, Run was born. A 28-day event during the month of February where teams of up to 10 people, including men, women, and children, anywhere in the world, can run, ruck, bike, swim, walk, crawl, or row 565 miles to raise awareness for the challenges of veterans reintegrating back into society. Are you ready to get involved? Great. First, visit www.runrangerrun.com where you can register and either join or form a team. Make sure you tell all your friends, or follow the example of Phantom Military Lighting and get your organization and colleagues involved. Use smoke signals, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email, megaphone, or any other way to get the word out. And raise awareness and money for GallantFew, an organization dedicated to helping our heroes successfully transition from military service to a civilian life filled with hope and purpose. Then put on your Run Ranger t-shirt and get your running shoes ready. Attend a free kickoff event near you on the last Saturday in January. And Run, Ranger, Run. The best part? Run Ranger Run is a virtual event. You can participate from anywhere at any time. Indoors, outdoors, any terrain, night or day. The only limits are those that you set. So join your friends, family, GallantFew, and Phantom Military Lighting in the Run Ranger Run Challenge this February and celebrate making a difference for our service members in transition.